from what the world will tell you, because the world will tell you what you want to hear. In so many areas, morality, ethics, finances. Don't get your financial theology from the world. Let me give you one last scripture verse. This is about how much you should give. Mark 12:41. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Now, you ought to go back, if you're looking at Mark 12:41 later, and circle the word watched. I heard a preacher say recently, hey, congregation, Jesus is still watching. That hadn't changed. Ouch. That's kind of uncomfortable, so let's just move on real quickly here. So if you're truly a child of God, when you give your offering to God, I believe He will always take care of your needs. I do. How many of your wants He supplies is maybe just as much up to you as it is to Him. So I'll close with a story about my Aunt Mary's garden in Benton, Arkansas. Now, Dave Ramsey tells a very similar story, but I promise I heard this way before Dave Ramsey. My experiences came before him. He didn't even get onto the financial scene until the 80s. I'm going to tell you about when I was a little boy. But my Aunt Mary, she lived next to us in Benton, Arkansas. And her husband died when I was 4 years old. That was 1954. Now back then, not many women were drivers. And so Aunt Mary didn't drive. She was still very healthy and very active. But we lived right next door to her, so my family took care of Aunt Mary. We took her every place that she needed to go. If she needed to pay bills, if she needed to buy groceries, we took care of Aunt Mary. So she raised us as my mom taught school. Aunt Mary babysat us. And so she was very, very close. So she decided she was going to make a garden in her backyard. Now, believe this or not, I watched Aunt Mary break that garden up with a mule and a plow, a handheld plow. Yes, I'm that old. Now, I didn't do much. I said I helped. I really just watched. But the mule was strapped to the plow, and she would guide the plow and holler at the mule. And she broke up that little old garden in her backyard. And then later, she went out and she planted it. She pulled the weeds out of it, made me help with that a little bit. She watered it. And then when it was time, she picked from it. And I remember picking peas and tomatoes and okra. Any of you ever picked okra? That is no fun. Get some gloves. But we helped pick from Aunt Mary's garden, and it was gorgeous. And so one day a friend of hers, a pastor friend, and Pastor Claude Sharp. Got any relatives in Benton, Arkansas, Chris? Pastor Claude Sharp came by to get some of her vegetables because she told him, said, hey, I got plenty of vegetables in my garden. Come on by, I'll give you some. And he said, okay. So he came by. When he looked at her garden, he said, the Lord has really given you a beautiful garden right here in your backyard. And Aunt Mary thought about it a moment. And then she responded. She said, well, I do thank God every day for what He gives. But you know, you should have seen my backyard when God had it by Himself. Aunt Mary's philosophy was always pray like it depends on God, but work and plan like it depends on you. When a Christian and God work together, financial freedom, it'll take place. Miss Steph.
All right, give Bob a hand.